Somewhere in a museum vault, sealed behind glass, sits a small stone tile no bigger than a matchbox. Carved into its surface are tiny symbols: a fish, a jar, a figure that might be a man, a shape that might be a plough. It looks almost playful, like a child's puzzle. But for over 100 years, the greatest minds in linguistics, archaeology, and cryptography have stared at symbols just like these and walked away defeated. This is the story of the Indus Valley script, a language written over 4,000 years ago by one of the largest civilizations the ancient world ever produced, and a language that, to this very day, no one on Earth can read. Picture the world around 2600 BCE. In Egypt, the pyramids of Giza are rising from the desert sand. In Mesopotamia, the great ziggurats tower over Sumerian cities, and along the banks of a mighty river system in what is now Pakistan and northwest India, an entirely different civilization is quietly building something remarkable. Historians call it the Indus Valley Civilization, or sometimes the Harappan civilization, named after Harappa, one of its first major cities to be excavated. At its height, this civilization covered an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, stretching across more than 1,000,000 square kilometers, with major cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa housing tens of thousands of people each. And yet, for over a century after its rediscovery, this civilization remained the quiet cousin of the ancient world, overshadowed by pyramids and pharaohs, simply because we could not read a single word its people wrote. When archaeologists first uncovered Mohenjo-Daro in the 1920s, what they found stunned them. This was not a primitive settlement. The streets were laid out on a precise grid, running perfectly north to south and east to west, centuries before Roman engineers would perfect the same idea. Beneath those streets ran a sophisticated drainage system, with covered sewers connecting nearly every home to a city-wide network, a level of urban planning that many cities would not match again until the modern era. Homes had private bathrooms, public wells provided clean water. There were granaries, marketplaces, and what appeared to be a massive public bath, carefully waterproofed with a layer of bitumen, perhaps used for ritual purification. This was a civilization of engineers, planners, and traders, one that reached as far as Mesopotamia through maritime trade routes, exchanging goods like carnelian beads, ivory, and cotton textiles. And everywhere across these ruins, on seals, on pottery, on small tablets and copper plates, the same mysterious symbols kept appearing. Over 4,000 individual inscriptions have been found so far, carved primarily onto small stone seals, roughly the size of a postage stamp, each one usually featuring an animal, a unicorn-like bull, an elephant, a tiger, alongside a short string of symbols above it. There are over 400 distinct signs in what scholars now call the Indus script. Some resemble simple pictures, like a fish or a set of footprints. Others are more abstract, geometric shapes that give no obvious clue to their meaning. On the surface, this should have been solvable. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs were cracked using the Rosetta Stone, a single inscription written in 3 languages that let scholars cross-reference and translate. Cuneiform, the wedge-shaped writing of Mesopotamia, fell to persistent scholars comparing multiple versions of royal inscriptions written in different known languages. But the Indus script has no Rosetta Stone, no bilingual inscription has ever been found. No king left behind a monument boasting of his conquests in both the Indus script and a language we already understand. And there is an even deeper problem hiding beneath the surface. Most of the inscriptions we have are incredibly short. The average inscription contains only about 5 symbols, and the longest ever discovered contains just 17. Compare that to the vast libraries of clay tablets left behind by the Sumerians, filled with epic poems, legal codes, and detailed trade records. The Indus Valley people, it seems, mostly wrote short phrases, likely names, titles, or trade labels stamped onto goods moving through their bustling markets. Without long texts to analyze, without repeated grammatical patterns to study across paragraphs, cryptographers are left trying to solve an enormous puzzle using only tiny scattered fragments, like trying to reconstruct an entire novel from a handful of torn business cards. Scholars have tried everything. Some believe the symbols represent an early form of Dravidian languages, the family of languages still spoken today across southern India, including Tamil and Telugu. Others argue the script encodes a lost Indo-Aryan language, an ancestor of Sanskrit. A few researchers have gone so far as to suggest the symbols are not language at all, but rather a system of religious or political symbols similar to heraldic emblems or trademarks, never meant to capture spoken words the way an alphabet does. This theory caused fierce academic battles in the early 2000s, with linguists on one side insisting the patterns show all the statistical hallmarks of genuine language, and skeptics on the other side arguing the symbols simply repeat too rigidly to represent the fluid, flexible nature of human speech. Computer scientists have even entered the fight, using artificial intelligence and statistical modeling to analyze the sequencing of the symbols, searching for patterns that mirror the grammar of known language families. Some of these studies found intriguing similarities to Dravidian sentence structure. Others found patterns that could fit multiple language families equally well, leaving the debate exactly where it started. Every few years, a new paper claims a breakthrough, a new theory sweeps through headlines, and every time, the excitement quietly fades as the wider academic community fails to reach consensus. So why does this matter so much? Why have brilliant minds spent entire careers chasing a language that might never be solved? Because trapped inside those tiny stone seals could be the missing chapter of human history. If we could read the Indus script, we might finally learn what these people called themselves. We might learn the names of their gods, the structure of their government, whether they were ruled by kings or governed by councils of merchants and priests. We might understand why, around 1900 BCE, this vast and sophisticated civilization began to decline, its great cities slowly emptying, its trade networks fading into silence. Was it climate change, as some evidence suggests, with shifting monsoon patterns drying up the rivers that sustained their agriculture? Was it invasion, migration, or simple gradual transformation into the smaller village cultures that followed? Without their own words to guide us, we are left piecing together their story entirely through pottery shards, drainage pipes, and the silent stone seals they left behind. And that is perhaps the most haunting part of this mystery. Unlike Egypt, where towering pyramids and elaborate tombs practically ensure survival in the historical record, the Indus Valley civilization built with more perishable materials, and their monuments were often function over grandeur, practical wells and baths rather than towering monuments to godlike kings. They left behind no epic poems that we can read, no royal boasts carved into cliff faces, no religious texts describing their beliefs. Just symbols, small and precise, repeated across thousands of tiny seals, waiting patiently in silence for someone, someday, to finally understand what they were trying to say. Researchers continue working today, armed with new technology, machine learning, and renewed archaeological excavations across Pakistan and India that occasionally turn up fresh inscriptions. Each new discovery adds another small piece to an enormous unfinished puzzle. Perhaps one day, a longer inscription will surface. Perhaps a bilingual text is still buried somewhere beneath the soil, waiting to give us the key we have needed for over a century. Until that day arrives, The people of the Indus Valley remain a civilization we can see clearly through their engineering and their cities, but cannot yet hear through their own words, a voice from 4,000 years ago, still whispering in a language the modern world has not yet learnt to understand.